Hey y'all, this is Lono Brazil here, flexing my guns. And don't your mother tell you not to play with guns? I decided to just go. I was gonna do this another kind of a way, but I decided to just go ahead and do it this way, just because maybe I'll do another way later. But I'm gonna just go ahead and hit you all with a jewel. So, as you all might know, if you're a fan of the music of a certain rap group called the Beastie Boys, once signed to Def Jam and then moved over to Capitol Records, first album being Licensed to Ill, which I just read that they cannot find the master tapes for, but that's none of my business. As those of you that know me may know that I was once a record executive in my life. I now have another career which is very successful, but I had a successful career in the music business. And I did a lot of management, production, things like that. But I was also a record executive, and one of the places that I worked, the most prominent place was Capitol Records, Capitol EMI Records, and that is where the Beastie Boys were signed. So to backtrack and just tell you the story so that it's understood from my point of view and a truthful point of view, what my involvement was, because it is the 25th year anniversary of the album Ill Communication. And I worked on that record. Let me explain how it works. So I was living in Los Angeles, kind of between LA and New York, during the early 90s. I'd been spending time in Japan, and I was out in LA, going back and forth, hanging out. And one night I was out, and there's a Stussy connection to this, because a few years prior, like early 90s, I think 90, 91, I was successful in organizing the first international Stussy tribe gathering in Tokyo, Japan. That's another story that I'll tell. I got mad stories. So what happened was, I don't smoke, I vape. So what happened was, for the Stussy Tribe event, I was looking for some acts to bring out, aside from the tribe and the DJs, Alex Baby, Albie, Michael Koppelman, Jules Gayton, my man Johnny. It was a bunch of cats. The whole crew was out there. Sean Stussy, he didn't DJ, but he was there. Africa Islam came, Whip a Whip. It was off the meter. And so one of the groups that I was able to get to come and perform for that event was a group called the Afros. And the Afros was a group produced by Jam Master Jay, who we lived around the corner from one another. I used to go shoot ball with Jay, hang out with Jay. Jay and I became kind of cool, and I was cool with the Hollis crew. And one of the members in the group was DJ Hurricane. Hurricane being also later known as the DJ for the Beastie Boys. So Hurricane and I were cool because we had spent time in Japan together, and I'd been around him with Jay in New York back in the 80s. And so we brought the Afros to Japan for the Stussy Tribe event. So fast forward a few years later, I'm in LA, and we were downtown at this club, I think the Mayan Ballroom or something like that. I think it was a hip hop party or something. And as I was outside, a car pulled up, and Hurricane got out of it. He was in the car with Todd Russo, Faith Evans' ex-husband and father of her children, who was also real tight with Jay, who I met through Jay at one of my parties in New York back in the 80s. So I was cool with Todd, Russar, Bozak. Yeah, so I'm going to try to speed up this story, but get to the facts. But because this particular post and this video is about my contribution to ill communication, how it came about. So, so me and Hurricane hadn't saw one another in a while. He's like, "Yo, what's up? You out here?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm out here." Back and forth. He was like, "Yo, I'm out here. I'm working on my record." I'm like, "Okay, dope." So we exchanged beeper numbers. Back then there was no mobile phones, just beeper numbers. So we exchanged beeper numbers. He said, "Hit me, come by the studio, let's connect." Blase, blase. So later on, I reached out, and it turns out I was staying over near Hollywood Hills, and Hurricane was staying in an apartment around the corner from me. It's always serendipity, things just happen like that. So we linked up. He came by my way. I had some records over there and an MPC, and listening to records and talking. I think I loaned him a couple of records because he was putting his production together. So he was working on a solo album, The Horror, and he was signed to Grand Royal, which was a subsidiary of Capitol Records, the Beastie Boys label. And so we would go spend time at the studio, G-Sun Studio, I think it was called, over in Atwater Village. Crazy spot. It was the headquarters of the Beasties. Mario Caldado was the engineer. I guess he ran the studio, and the Beastie Boys would be in and out of there working on their stuff, and different cats would show through the studio, Spike Jones and Christian Hosoi and all these skaters, because they had a half pipe in there so cats could skate. And there was a basketball, like a half court basketball court, and a stage, and the band would be playing, they would just be jamming, doing whatever. We would just be there playing ball, drinking brew, smoking weed. I didn't really smoke weed, but there was lots of trees being burned. We were just hanging and shooting ball and having a good time, just being guys hanging out. And met a lot of people, got cool with the Beastie Boys. And one night, Adam Yauch, R.I.P, God bless him, or whatever you believe in, he smoked, and you could smoke weed in there, but you couldn't smoke cigarettes. And at the time, I was smoking cigarettes. And Yauch was like, "I'm gonna go out on the fire escape and roll up American Spirit." So I went out there with him, and we were just talking, just he and I. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. We just sitting outside LA, warm summer night. And he was like, "Yo, L.O., we got a new president at Capitol Records, and we finishing up our album." And I had heard some of the album, some of the joints on there, some dope shit. The album was sounding good. They was always making records. I don't know specifically what was what, because Hurricane was making records, they were making beats. It was just always something going on musically, and the band was always playing, maybe rehearsing. I don't know. And Mario was recording. Hurricane was doing his record. I actually rhymed on one of the tracks, which was eventually pulled off for whatever reason. I guess my Hot 16 wasn't that hot to Hurricane, so he pulled my shit. My man Ty Bud rocked on there, a song called Comin' OFF, which actually I did the hook for. So if you check Hurricane's record, the Horror song called Comin' OFF, that's me in the hook. My verse was not there. I'll give you a taste of my joint. Was like, we come with a new style and version to take you on a lyrical excursion. I'm your mellow, it's L.O., and I'm out to win, and I'm coming OFF like pennies on a hoe. Something like that. Didn't get no run, that's cool. But the coming OFF, that's the track. But anyway, as time progressed, Hurricane making his record. But no, so fast forward, backtrack, so me and Yauch are sitting out on the patio, and he was like, "Yo, we got a new president at Capitol Records. You should probably come over there, and you should probably work at the label." And I was like, "Doing what?" He was like, "I don't know, man. They don't have no staff. Nothing's happening. We got a record coming. You should probably get over. We need somebody like you over there." I was like, I don't know. I wasn't really my goal was not to be a record executive. That was never on my mind. Never something I was interested in. So, you know, the idea of that didn't appeal to me, and I just kind of like thought, I don't know. He was like, think about it. And so later on, as time progressed, I'm still moving around. I'm doing different things, whatever. And I was in Chicago, I think, and my good brother Malik Levy, who had already been, he used to work with Paul Stewart being the person that got House of Pain their deal. He's the one who got the Far Side their deal after meeting them through me. I knew the Far Side first through Razkaz, who I did some production and da-da-da. I know I'm rambling, but there's a point to this. But anyway, Malik Levy hit me up and was like, yo, Matt Robinson, Holly Robinson's brother from 21 Jump Street, blah, blah, blah. My man, Daddy Matthew. Big up Daddy Matthew, I gone star. Yeah, he was VP. He got the job as VP of A&R at Capitol Records. Malik got an A&R job, so they were looking for people. So Malik was like, yo, you coming back to LA? I was in Chicago with Shaw Wisdom producing a group called Sincere Knowledge. And so, because I was doing hip-hop production at the time, I wasn't really messing with house at that little period during the early 90s. I was deep in hip-hop. And so we had done a record. And so Malik is like, yo, you know, they hiring. You need to come back and come work with us. I was like, damn, this is the second time someone has said to me, I need to come work at Capitol. You know, Capitol was real whack. They had done crazy numbers with MC Hammer and Geraldo with the gyrating hips, and I forgot the name of his song. But they didn't really have no rec in hip hop, so no one really cared about Capitol. So no one really wanted to work there, and no one wanted to be signed there. They had dropped all the groups, and they had nothing. And Matt Robinson was one of the VPs of A&R. Malik became A&R. I came back to town and met a man named Gary Gersh, who was the president now and this was the person that Yauch was telling me about. Malik was like, yo, I told him about you. I told Matt, you know, you need to come and meet these guys. So I was back in LA, and me and my girlfriend had broke up. And I was thinking, I think I'm gonna go back to New York. So I was getting ready to go back to New York. I had actually all my stuff packed, all my records, all my gear, my MP, all my stuff. I'm taking it, my clothes, all my sneaker collection. I'm ready to go back to New York, which I still had my things in New York, which is where this video is being made. I'm in New York as we speak, still living in New York. I ran into Malik. He's like, yo, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm out. I'm getting ready to bounce. It's over for me. Things wasn't really clicking, you know, like I wanted it. And I've always been a bit nomadic. So I was making a move. And I'm going to get back to the meat of the story and the reason why I'm making this post. But in the meantime, got an email here. I tell you what, we're going to stop this right now. This is part 1. I'm going to come back with part 2 in just a second. Hold tight.